unpredictable world of fantasy sports, when all hope seems lost and chaos and confusion rule, one hero will rise. And change everything. GoingFor2.com. Because no one remembers the extra point.
What is going on, guys? All right, welcome to episode 92 of the Armchair Fantasy Show. I'm your host, of course, Jeff Lambert. You can follow me on Twitter at JeffLambert77. Live at every Friday night right here on Facebook Live, Periscope, YouTube, and Twitch. And, of course, syndicated on all your major podcast networks. I'm here, as always, with my co-host, Mr. Ryan Searfoss. Ryan, how you doing tonight, man?
Fantastic. It's camp time.
Yes,
it's
sir.
actually football.
Yes, sir. Exciting time of the year for sure. And also joining us tonight, Mr. Fantasy Black Book himself. You can follow him on Twitter at Joe Pisapia 17, and of course, Mr. Joe Pisapia. I hope I said that right.
Oh, you said it right twice, baby.
All
well
right.
done, Jeff. I could tell there was a little bit of a hesitation there, and they just went for it, and I appreciate that. Good job, baby. Good job.
Thank you, sir. All right, man. So look, let's go ahead and talk about this Black Book a little bit, man. Give us the rundown. Where can we find it at? What's it all about?
Well, look, it's funny because with so much fantasy content out there for every sport, it's very difficult to kind of separate yourself from the herd. I mean, especially nowadays. I remember, 15, 20 years ago where, you were able to like pick up little tidbits from local newspaper stuff that was on the internet and things like that. That's all gone. Every kind of statistics and research you used to do, that's all gone because everybody's got all these different deep stats and all these different things. So all fantasy players are all handed the same information. So how do you separate yourselves? Well, you separate yourself by a system like relative position value, because rankings are rampant and rankings are cute, but they're not enough. And what relative position value does, or RPV in the Black Book, is it quantifies rankings. It tells you just how much better Julio Jones is than Tyreek Hill, and where the fantasy league average at wide receiver 1 is, and how you can use RPV to build an advantage, and why you should be building roster strength instead of trying to fill positions. And I have to say I'm very humbled because we started out 10 years ago. Next year will be 10 years of the Black Book, and it's unbelievable. Over 2 sports. We're moving to hockey this year. This month, we're releasing a hockey book in August, and we're moving to basketball next year, too, so very exciting. So by year 10, we're going to have 4 sports, and it's number 1 in football books last year in August on Amazon. Not fantasy sports, but football books ahead of Tom Brady and Nick Foles. So it must be working for somebody because people keep coming back in droves, and I'm really proud of my team, and I'm really thankful for all the readers out there. And it's over on Amazon. Look at it. This sexy Black Book. My God, that cover. It's on Amazon for paperback, which I just updated with the Tyreek Hill news as well as the cheat sheet. So that's all done for RPV. Everything's been updated as of last weekend, and no other publication is going to be updated. And it's out there on iTunes and Kindle as well. So there you go. There's my infomercial. I approve this message.
All right, good stuff, man. That is awesome stuff. So you said you've been doing it for 10 years, man. How did you get into it? How did it start off?
It's a funny winding road. I remember, I was writing for a couple sites. One of them I really loved, and it shut down. It was a bummer, and it was kind of doing it for free to kind of learn. And then the other one was going to pay me, and I worked for them for a year, and then they stiffed me. Isn't that great? What a feel-good story. And I said, screw this. I'm going to go out there, and I'm going to put out this system that I've been using that I've had a lot of success with, and I put it out there the first year for baseball. and I thought it would sell 50 books on Amazon. It went to #1 in fantasy sports, and there was nothing really out there at the time on Kindle, and that was before paperback became available on Amazon. And then all of a sudden, people kept coming back, and I started getting messages, well, when the next one, and then expanded to football a few years later. And it's just been a wild ride, and I ended up hosting my own show at SiriusXM Radio for 5 years, and got to work with great people there, hosted shows at the Fantasy Sports Radio Network. Now I do my own podcast, a Black Book Show over on the Fantrax Podcast Network, which is obviously everywhere you can listen to podcasts. But it's crazy, man. It's funny that when you really are passionate and you give people something that's unique and useful and adaptable and doesn't weigh them down, but they can actually look at it and say, hey, this works for every format I'm in. This works for every kind of style league, every depth of league. And it's different and it makes sense. And it's like, I don't love math, but I like counting money. If you could give people something that they can grasp onto right away and they could really use it, then they'll love you forever. And luckily we entertain a lot of people too with my stupidity on the shows and a lot of fun stuff we do. And this is entertainment, right? You guys are out here to entertain. Fantasy football is entertaining. That's what it's all about.
Awesome stuff, man. That's a great story. That's awesome. Yeah,
it's crazy. And this is year I'm all into. This is the first year I won't be doing any other. I used to do part-time for the last 10 years. You might not believe this. You know what my other job was?
What's that?
You ready for this? I used to train actors to fight in film and television. So, like, all the stuff you see in movies, like, Game of Thrones and Broadsword and hand-to-hand fighting, Rapier and Dagger and Pirates of the Caribbean, I used to do that for 10 years. So,
That's
but
awesome.
now I'm old. I'm old now. I can't move like I used to. So now I just got to talk fantasy all the time.
Hey, that's the best gig to have right there, man. If I could do that, I would.
Fun
love
either
it.
way, right?
Yeah.
I know, right? Could you imagine, though, at dinner parties when people ask me what I did for a living the last 10 years, and I'm like, I don't know which one. I'm just an 8-year-old. I'm a professional 8-year-old. That's what I am. So.
Good stuff, man.
That's freaking awesome.
All right, so I have a quick announcement I want to make before we get into the news and notes tonight. We have a humongous DraftKings tournament that I actually have been working hard at over the last couple months. I finally got the green light from DraftKings to go forward with it. It's a tournament for charity. So basically, you go to GoingFor2.com/GF2C, stands for Going for 2 Crown. It's a DraftKings contest that we set up. You're basically going to just register there. Once the contest goes live, I'll send the URL to everybody. The contest is free in itself. We're just encouraging, obviously, to donate a little bit to the GoFundMe page that we have set up. And the GoFundMe page, once we've finished filling that tournament, we're going to send all the money to FantasyCares.net, which of course is Scott Fishbowl's, his big fantasy charity that he runs, which ends up buying toys for kids during the holidays. So it's a great tournament. DraftKings was kind enough to go ahead and put up some prizes for us. We got some DK bucks, some DK crowns, some DK swag, for the winners out there. So it's a great contest. It's a great cause. So please just check it out. Goingfor2.com/GF2C, Going for 2 Crown, and enjoying that contest. And I think we're already up. We've been live for about 12 or 14 hours, and we're already up to about $250 already. So we're working our way towards that goal. So I just want to get that out there really quick. All right, let's go ahead and get into the news and notes.
News and notes from around the league.
All right, Ryan, we haven't heard from you in a while, so we're going to go to you first tonight on these news and notes. The first one here is Melvin Gordon is an official holdout. And there's a few people that are holding out. I think Michael Thomas, Ezekiel Elliott. Melvin Gordon seems to be the one that's probably most worrisome. What are your thoughts on Melvin Gordon? If you're an owner right now, how much are you sweating right now?
I'm terrified of it. I mean, I live in Pittsburgh, so last year I was firsthand seeing every panic with the Le'Veon Bell thing, and this seems eerily similar. And I think we've seen a lot of bad contract negotiations with the Chargers. They always seem to have rookies hold out for little stipulations and stuff. And this is a running back for it. And Phillip Rivers basically said that they have good running back depth and it's not that big of a deal. And when your quarterback says something like that, it doesn't look pretty. So I'm pretty scared about it. The other guys, not so much. Michael Thomas is going to get paid.
Agreed. What about Zeke? He didn't show up today.
I think Zeke's going to get paid.
Yeah, I agree with both of those as well. All right, Joe, let's go to you. Give us your thoughts on Melvin Gordon, and what do you think of the two guys behind him, Justin Jackson and Austin Eckler?
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to echo what Ryan said. You should be terrified if you own Melvin Gordon, because I think that last year the precedent was set with Le'Veon Bell. The fact that he held out all year was shocking. It was shocking to me, and I wrote a piece last year that I think it was about week 1 where he wasn't there, and I said, if this should go on all year, you're going to see other guys do this. And sure enough, here we are a year later, and somebody else is doing it. And until the CBA turns around and starts valuing running backs differently, through the draft, I think that you're going to see more of this. Now, I don't think you're going to see it with Ezekiel Elliott. I don't think you have to worry about that. But in terms of the guys left, my concern is I think it's going to be pretty much a timeshare situation. I mean, Justin Jackson has some positives. Austin Eckler certainly in the passing game has some positives as well. But unfortunately, I think this basically goes to the idea of you just lost another bell cow running back in Melvin Gordon, which makes it even more impactful that you make sure and you understand that you get a real running back who is not in a timeshare, at least 2 of them, because you don't want to be relying on getting this situation right. You don't want to be relying on getting the Seattle situation right. There's certain things, or the Miami situation now, which might be a situation. That's the problem, is you want to make sure you lock in some running backs early that you know are going to be the guy, so that way you can afford to, maybe those guys like an Austin Eckler, just a bonus, like a flex play, or maybe even a bench guy for you if you can afford it.
Yeah, good stuff there. I think if I'm drafting right now, I'm giving him sort of the Tyreek Hill treatment that we did about a month ago, and if he falls, I'll draft him just for the chance that he does end up signing and is going to be there. But honestly, I think I'm avoiding him pretty much at all costs right now, because you're right. I mean, I think he even went on TV and before this all happened, when Le'Veon Bell was going on, he talked about how he thought Le'Veon Bell should hold out for the entire year, which he ended up doing. So if Melvin Gordon is saying that before this even comes about, maybe he's already thinking that he can hold out for the entire season and get his contract, I guess, and maybe he gets traded too. So yeah,
I felt more comfortable with Tyreek Hill playing this year before the news broke than I do about Melvin Gordon right now.
Wow,
I agree. I think Ryan's
say,
dead on, and it's not because he's a terrified Steelers fan who's going through deja vu.
Whoa. I'm not. I live in Pittsburgh. I'm a Ravens.
Oh, you're a Ravens fan living in Pittsburgh?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful, man.
Do you carry a gun?
Nah, nice, but not a guy. That's cool.
That's dangerous, buddy. That's some dangerous stuff. Can't get much worse. I mean, I'm a Patriots fan. If I'm in Pittsburgh, I'm at least wearing a bulletproof vest or something. It's a dangerous stuff.
I've seen a Bill Belichick hung an effigy before there. It depends what Ravens jersey you wear is how people treat you. Like if it's a Suggs, you would have got mugged back in the day. But I always rocked like Ed Reed, and he was respected. So
Ed Reed's everybody loves Ed Reed, so I have to like it. All right, fair enough.
With Zeke, though, I just want to say, I feel like Dallas appreciates what he brings to the team. Like, they know that offense is revolved around him.
Well, he's a star.
That's different, yeah.
He's going to get paid. Jerry Jones always pays the stars. Jerry Jones loves stars. It's all going to work out. Plus, he's got 2 years left on his deal anyway, so
yep.
This is just him not wanting to get hit or run much in training camp, and I don't blame him. It's hot in Oxnard.
Yeah, exactly. All right, the next note I got on here is another running back note, and it's Darius Geis, who we didn't get to see last year at all because he hurt himself before he even played a single snap. And the word in the camp is that he's full go now. So how excited are you about Darius Geis, Joe?
I wish I was more excited about him because I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop. I'm just a little worried that I want to see him. I want to see him out there in the field, and I'll feel much better. And it's more because of the ADP he's going at right now. I think if his ADP was a much bigger discount, I feel better about it. But a lot of people are buying full bore into Darius Geis. And theoretically, I get it. Sure, it makes sense, but logic and fantasy football don't always go well together. And Adrian Peterson did have 1,000 yards in that offense last year, and he clearly needs to make some cash, so he's hell-bent on playing as much as he can this year. So this is another situation where if I can avoid it, I'd like to, especially because I don't think much of the Redskins' offense this year.
Nope.
But if you're going to get a discount on Geis, that's fine. But the current ADP so far for me, I'm not sold quite yet.
Yeah, and I know, Ryan, you're a big Geis guy. What do you think of Geis?
I love Geis, hate the situation.
Yeah.
The offense is bad. There's nobody there. He looked good, and so far, like just the little clips they showed him, I didn't know he could run routes and wheel routes and stuff. But that offense is bad. They're going to give AP the ball. AP has $100 million in debt he has to pay off, so he's going to be trying to get as many carries as he can. So I don't trust it, and I love Geis. I'll buy him in Dynasty, but I'm probably avoiding a redraft.
Yeah,
and
agreed.
I'm going to buy him later in the season cheap when people are frustrated.
Yeah, agreed. Agree with that. Actually, I live in Washington, D.C., so his ADP is even higher here. So there's no chance in hell that I'm going to own him in any of my redraft leagues because all my friends here are Redskins fans, and there's just no chance of that happening. And I'm not paying that premium for him, so I'll just wait until he gets start slow in the season and see if I can buy low on him. So that's what I'm going to try to do. I'm avoiding him at all costs as well. Let's make a switch over to the quarterbacks here, and we got Cam Newton. Been cleared for the with the shoulder injury, which everyone's kind of worried about, but he's been fully cleared. But he's going to be on a pitch count. If you're a Cam Newton owner, Ryan, how closely are you watching the preseason and the camps to see how Cam Newton's throwing the ball?
I'm watching it. I don't think I'm as worried as probably I should be. He looked good on a couple of deep routes they showed today, but that injury was fairly early in the year, and he got just smashed. I just finished watching All or Nothing when they showed the play where he hurt that shoulder, and it messed him up for a while, but it wasn't like tears. It's not like Andrew Luck's where he was throwing a Nerf ball right now. I think if he's practicing, if he's on the pitch count, great. He didn't practice all last year during the season. He just kind of showed up on game day. So the pitch count's not a huge deal, and I don't think they'll tell us anyways. But Cam's getting discounted now in ADP. I'm still buying him.
Yep. Joe, are you worried about Cam Newton, not just with throwing, but, with them letting him run the ball as much as he has in the past with that shoulder injury?
After the game's over? I'm more worried about what he's going to wear after the game's over. It's more about the attire in the press conference than anything else. And I'm not worried too much about the injury, and I think kind of again to echo what Ryan said. Ryan's very bright, by the way. That's
why I keep him around.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, hey, I love to disagree if I can, but I agree here. I think you're getting a discount on Cam Newton, who's an outstanding fantasy quarterback, maybe even a better fantasy quarterback than a real one. But I'm not worried about the pitch count. I think that just makes sense. That's just the right thing to do. Why would you push a guy in training camp who's been a proven veteran that you already know what you're getting out of him? So you're not going to gain anything as long as he feels good enough with the reps he's getting. I think that's all you got to worry about. So the fact that he's throwing the football right now, that's all that matters. All the other reports were good. Everything else that cleared out for Cam Newton the last couple of weeks were all good. So to me, it's full systems go. And if you get a discount, take it, especially in those single quarterback leagues. I see him dropping a ton because people are still a little concerned. And I wouldn't be. This is a guy who has top 5 quarterback potential in fantasy sometimes. We've seen him do it before. And he's got some pretty decent weapons around him. So, I mean, CMC was pretty good last year, last time I checked. And you got Samuel there, too. And everybody loves DJ Moore, including me. So I think all systems go for Mr. Cam Newton.
Yeah, I agree. I think there was a video going around on Twitter today with him throwing a long bomb to Curtis Samuel, and everybody was all excited about it. So
not bad.
Yeah,
I think he looks fine.
Looks
I wouldn't
fine
worry
to me.
about it.
Especially when you compare, because I actually own him in Dynasty, and you compare him to what he was throwing at last year at the end of the year. I mean, he was like shot putting it out there last year, whereas this time he just reeled back and launched it. So, love to see that. All right, make a transition over here to some of the receivers. We got Cooper Kupp, who we had some worry with his injury, coming with this ACL injury that he wouldn't be ready for the season, but he avoids the PUP list for camp. Ryan, are you putting Cooper Kupp, higher up in your rankings now because of this news, or do you still think he might start the season kind of slow?
I'm not buying Cooper Kupp in this position. I mean, he's going off his running back 22, 23 right now. So he's the third person on his team to go in the top 24, which is crazy, especially coming off a Week 10 ACL. We had Ethan Turner on, 2 months ago?
About a month and a half,
was talking about that he could be healthy coming off of an ACL in 6 to 9 months, but 100% recovery is more around the year range. And a lot of it's scary with Cooper Kupp. I know he has a great floor and all, but even last year, he had 28% of all his receiving yards came from one game.
Wow.
Out of his 8. So there's a lot more questions about him than I think there's answers, especially when there's that talented receivers around him.
All right. What's your thoughts on Cooper Kupp, Joe?
Oh, good. Finally, we can disagree. Excellent. I
knew it when I saw his name on.
You can feel it, right? You can feel it inside there. I love Cooper Kupp. I love this news. This is very optimistic. The fact that he's already out there and not on the PUP list, I think that's huge. You go through the game log of Kupp: 552, 663, 471, 162, 690, 589. I mean, that's pretty good. And he's got 6 touchdowns over that span last year. So this is a guy in PPR who's going to show up for you and get you basically anywhere from 12 to 20 points. I mean, it is terrific what he offers. And I understand there's concern because there's 2 other guys in that offense too, but part of the scaling back of Todd Gurley and part of, I think, the overuse of Todd Gurley last year also connectivity-wise was when Cooper Kupp went down. I think they relied a little bit heavier on Todd Gurley in certain of those intermediate pass situations. And I think it took a toll on Gurley, and I think that Cooper Kupp being back helps that as well. I'm sure there's a bit of concern, obviously, but ACLs aren't what they used to be. And he's not a running back; he's a wide receiver. So in that sense, too, I'm even less worried about the contact potentially that he might be getting. With running backs, sometimes you worry about them, especially at the line, getting rolled or getting hit and things like that. But a little less of that in the wide receiver position. So I think there's room for all three of these guys. The Sean McVay offense is incredible, and I think it's all systems go for Cooper Kupp. Right now he's going third of the three, and I love that you're getting a discount on him, and I'll take that discount. And even if he's not back to being 100% Cooper Kupp until October or so, I'm willing to take that risk for sure.
Yeah, agreed. And I think him and Goff have that connection. It just seems like ever since his rookie year, it seems like they just have that connection. Especially
he's his safety blanket. You could see the rapport when you watch the games when he needs a third down or he needs. You see it. What I'm talking about, Jeff.
Exactly.
He sees Cooper Kupp as he's that Julian Edelman version.
Yep.
He's that guy.
Yep, and he's the red zone guy too. He seems to always look for him in the red zone as well. So I definitely like Cooper Kupp, and the fact that he avoided the PUP list. When you got guys like DeAndre Hopkins going on the PUP list.
What was that? Around his ADP.
What was that, Ryan?
So I said, what about I like his upside is kind of, I feel like it's low compared to the other guys going around his ADP. Like Tyler Lockett's right after him, DJ Moore, Mike Williams, Tyler Boyd. They're all... Yeah, but Cooper Kupp's floor is so much higher than on a weekly basis. So I think it depends, to your point, Ryan, I think how you want to build your roster. If your number one receiver is a guy that's up and down, then a guy like Cooper Kupp is a much better complement. If your number one receiver is somebody like Devontae Adams, who's locked in every week, then you can take a little bit more boom with a Brandon Cooks or somebody like that. I think that's where roster construction comes into play as opposed to just general, opinion of a player or talent level.
Yep. Hey, Ryan, we got a question actually for you on Facebook Live here.
Wait, is it Mark Andrews related?
No, this is about
okay.
Cooper Kupp. This is about Cooper Kupp. He wants to know, so if you're not targeting Kupp, who are you taking in that Rams offense to sort of fill in for Kupp's targets that he's going to be missing? Are we going with Reynolds there?
I think he's still going to be their probably third or fourth in targets on the team, depending on how much they decide to play Gurley. But it's just the fact he's going around guys who are going to be their team's number one or two targets. It's not that I don't like him. It's just I don't like him at 504. But like I said, if roster construction is the right way, yes. But I just... around those first rounds, I want to get guys who give me some upside too. All
right, fair enough.
And I kind of like Landry in that range a little bit too.
Jarvis Landry.
I just think he's going to have his ADP's 3 slots behind him, and he's only the number 2. And OBJ I think is going to open up everything for him. It's funny. Landry's the one that I'm going to go back and I'm going to jump in and agree with you too. That's another guy who's getting lost in the shuffle here.
Yep.
Last year was a tough spot for him. Rookie quarterback coming in there. Landry's not the kind of receiver who's used to getting double coverage. There weren't a whole lot of other options there. And when Beckham's there now, that frees him up on single coverage, and he's going to be a monster. And this is a guy who catches 90 balls every year. I understand that touchdowns are a little iffy sometimes, but just not nearly enough respect for Jarvis Landry right now going around.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
He might get some run after catch too now.
Oh yeah, well look, here we go. See that? We broke up for a second and now we're back together. See how quick that happened?
It didn't last long. Yeah, but I mean, Jarvis Landry's gonna have it nice this year. He's always been his team's top guy.
Yep.
And now he's
the second
top 2 receiver in the league, top 3 receiver in the league with him.
Yep, agreed 100%. All right, so today's show is going to be mostly about wide receivers, and we're going to kick it off here with a little bit of this or that with an ADP edition.
It's time for this or that.
All right, so this is how this works. Basically, I'm going to give you 2 guys, and I'm going to give you their ADP currently in redraft, and you're going to tell me which of these 2 guys at that position do you prefer over the 2. And Joe, we'll go to you first. I'm calling this one the Battle of the Tylers. We got Tyler Lockett at 506 and Tyler Boyd at 606, a round later. Which one do you like better?
This is a good one. I actually like both guys. I like the Battle of the Tylers. Very good. It feels very Game of Thronesy, which I'm a big fan of, so I'm already happy about that. I'm going to go with the guy a whole round later because, again, this is relative position value 101. I understand Tyler Lockett might be the number 1 on his team, but statistically speaking, they were basically the same player last year. So why wouldn't I want to save that, take another running back, another wide receiver, and then take Tyler Boyd and pass on Lockett if I get him a whole round later? So for me, it's a no-brainer. It's Tyler Boyd. And I think now that Green and Dalton are back and healthy, there's no reason why he can't be exactly what he was last year. People point to the drop-off in Tyler Boyd last year. Well, it's pretty hard when you have no quarterback and you have nobody else, and AJ Green's hurt, and it gets a little trickier then to perform, but the man got paid for a reason, and I think that Tyler Boyd with a whole round difference is certainly worth a discount.
Agreed 100%. I'm actually not on the Lockett train. I think last year his efficiency rate was through the roof. I mean, he was unbelievably efficient. I think there's some regression there. They're the one of the most run-heavy teams in the league. I think he's going to have some trouble adjusting to the quote-unquote Doug Baldwin role. I think he struggles a little bit this year. So I'm actually off the Lockett train, and I'm going to go with Boyd as well. All right, Ryan, we're going to go to you with the next one we got here. Julian Old Man versus the Young Man. And it's Julian Edelman, of course, at the 402, and Dante Pettis at the 609. So more than 2 rounds later. Who do you got out of those two?
Oh, Pettis is 709.
709, even later than what I thought.
Yeah, I was looking at who's going around them because I trust Edelman more, but at 709, I'm going to take Pettis. I mean, at his spot, you're picking between your young receiver. You're picking between Sammy Watkins, Will Fuller, Allen Robinson. Pettis has a ton of upside. There's a ton of targets to go around. It's a complete trash show of who he knows how to get the ball. Like I don't understand what San Francisco is doing in any parts of their offense other than Kittle, but I like Pettis' upside. I've been on the Pettis train for a long time.
Longer than I have, and I'm a fan.
Yeah, I texted you the night of the draft and was very jealous that you got Pettis because I wanted him in Baltimore. But I've taken him. Edelman is surrounded by some absolute studs at 4.0 or 4.08. It's too early for me. I know he's going to get volume, but he's a floor play. He's not a great ceiling play, but you can get guys with both in the 4th round.
Yeah, in the 4th round, I think you're right. I think he's more of a floor play. He doesn't have that high ceiling. He's never been a touchdown guy. He's more of just a PPR volume kind of guy. So I don't think you have that high ceiling that you want to get in that 4th round. So I agree. I think I'm going Pettis there as well. All right, Joe, you got the Kings of New York. Now this probably made more sense about 2 days ago when Shepard had that thumb that wasn't broken. But let's just assume that Shepard does sort of make it to, through preseason, ends up being the starter on week 1. I got Robbie Anderson, of course, for the New York Jets at the 612 versus Sterling Shepard at the 802, and maybe even later than that now with this thumb injury.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I'm fading Giants altogether. If they're not named Saquon, I'm not interested. I'm just terrified of when and if Daniel Jones takes over or they try this change at the quarterback position, what that does to the value of Golden Tate, of Shepard, of Ingram, of all those guys. I mean, everyone's loving them right now because they're getting a discount on ADP, which is fine in theory, but I don't think people are looking ahead enough. And I think that management's really kind of put their foot in their mouth when they made this selection with the quarterback. And if they do believe him that much, then he's got to play this year. And if he's going to play this year, what does that do to the rest of these guys? And I think it kills their value. I really do. This is the difference between understanding a player's talent and then a player's opportunity. And I'm concerned about the opportunity. I'm concerned when they make that change at quarterback. Not that Eli's been great, but Eli has won 2 Super Bowls. Eli is a competent quarterback in the NFL. We don't know what Daniel Jones is. And if you believe it out of the scouts, it's not very encouraging of what they think of Daniel Jones. So for me, I'm going to take Robbie Anderson. Sam Darnold played better towards the end of last year, much more efficient with the football, did not turn the ball over as much, which is what you were waiting for. But I also think Robbie Anderson, as long as his head is on straight, is pretty talented. And I actually think that now that they have a little bit of a running game there with Le'Veon Bell, I'm hoping Adam Gase won't screw that up, but I'm not optimistic. At the same time, I think Robbie Anderson is good enough, and I have enough faith in him that him and Darnold can get together and be useful enough the entire season, where Sterling Shepard, I'm worried about come week 6, week 7, that he's just lost.
Yep, I agree 100%. I think if you saw last year when Darnold came back from his injury, how good Robbie Anderson ended up being. I mean, it was like they made a connection, and they just hit it off. I think that kind of continues into this year, and I think I agree. I think Robbie Anderson is who I go with. Even before the thumb injury, I think it's going to be Anderson.
I love Robbie Anderson, so yeah, I agree.
All right, Ryan, I'm going to you next. The name of this battle is Houston. We have a problem. We're going to take 2 receivers from the same team. We got Will Fuller at the 710 versus Kiki QT at the 1003. Which of these 2 guys do you like better at their ADPs?
You're literally last week you took all people I hated. This week it's all people I love. I think Kiki Cutie here. I love what he does as underneath threat. I think he's going to be working underneath, get tons of targets. He's going to be the PPR guy. I know I just kind of ripped on just the volume plays with like Edelman and them before, but I think in the 10th round, I love QT there. He still has deep playability, and I don't like to factor injuries in, but Fuller hasn't been the healthiest of guys year in, year out. And if he goes down, that really opens up for QT, and I'd rather have that based off my 10th round guy than a guy in the 7th. And he's a dude who can do just a little bit of everything. I think they'll find ways to get him the ball and kind of manufacture plays for him.
All right, good stuff there. All right, the next one we got here for you, Joe, and I'm kind of happy with this title I came up with. It was pretty clever. If I do say
this is
so
very
myself.
clever. I gotta say, you should pat yourself on the back. I like this one. I laughed actually out loud, not even internally, because I really liked it that much.
So the name of this battle is When Harry Metcalf Sally. Of course, the N'Keal Harry at the 9:10 and DK Metcalf a few short picks later at the 10:04. Which of these two guys you like?
I like Harry, and it's not close for me. And it's not because I'm a Pats guy. I'm a very, very reasonable Patriots fan. I lost Super Bowls before I won them. I'm not a bandwagon guy, but N'Keal Harry, to me, I think he was the most ready wide receiver in terms of complete total package. I really like what he brought. And when they drafted I was actually very excited because that's like a polished guy that they could bring in and he could actually contribute right away. And I think he will. I think there's a need for him to contribute right away, and I think he will contribute right away. Whereas DK Metcalf, I think there's just a ton for him to learn still with running routes. I understand the physical specimen. Everybody gets all, crazed out. And I'm not a combine guy. I'm a tape guy. And the tape on N'Keal Harry, I just like so much more. And then when you see the fact that he's going to Tom Brady's house and he's hanging out and he's eating avocado ice cream and doing whatever the hell it is you do at Tom Brady's house, I think that it's showing you how important they think he is to this offense. And he's out there with the ones already and doing everything he's supposed to do. So when the Patriots last time reached for an offensive player, it was Sony Michel, and he sure as hell got opportunities last year, and I think Harry will get them as well. So, again, for me, they could be right next to each other, and it's still not close. It's definitely, for me, N'Keal Harry.
All right. Very, very high in Harry. I like Harry a lot as well. I think my choice would also be Harry in that situation. I'm with Woody Metcalf pretty much everywhere. I think he's a good dynasty ad. I think eventually he becomes a great receiver. I don't think if we're doing redraft, this is not the guy that I want on my team this year.
You remember David Boston?
Yes.
Yeah, the dude who's like the swollest guy.
Yeah, he was like
swollest
so
guy.
jacked.
Right.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I don't want to date myself. I know I'm getting old here. I actually turned 40 last year, but still,
I'm older than you, buddy.
There you go. So I feel like DK Metcalf's gonna be that next guy. Like he might have that one big season or something like that, but it's like more the look than it is the talent on the field, and it scares the living hell out of me, man.
Yep, agreed, 100%.
Yeah, I like Harry a lot. He was my receiver one this year.
Yeah,
I'm with you. When you watch the tape on him, don't you feel like he's just the polished guy?
Yep.
He just all those intangible things, and I think that's the Patriot thing, and they look for that guy who can fill that kind of role. And I even think Dorsett will be useful in this offense too at times because he was very good with Brady last year.
Yep.
I think he's one of those unheralded deeper league guys to keep on your bench. But I mean, it's hard not to think that they believe Harry can step in and be useful right away.
Yep.
He has to be, especially with his ability, to be an extension of the run game with how he worked on screen passes, and how physical he was,
and how much they love to do that. I mean, that's Patriots 101.
Right
they
there.
love running that outside screen.
It reminded me of Brandon Marshall, how he was just that physical beast.
Let me tell you, if he becomes Brandon Marshall, then
You'd be ecstatic.
I'd be ecstatic because that guy, I don't think people remember how good he was back in the day when him and Cutler were getting together. Man, that was a hell of a thing to watch.
Everybody remembers him at the end of his career.
Yep.
Well, they remember at the end of his career, they remember all the nonsense, but to remember him on the field, man, that guy, you're right, he was a beast, man. He was tough, he was fast, and he was strong, and it was you don't see that combination all the time from a wide receiver. It's usually one or the other.
Yeah, I think Brandon Marshall had a night against my team, the 49ers. He came in, I think, with basically one leg and couldn't run worth a damn, but he caught 3 touchdowns because he was so big and so strong, and they just threw the ball up to him. It was pretty upsetting. All right, Ryan, we got one last one here. I'm calling this one Paris Hilton, That's Hot. T.Y. Hilton at the 303 and his teammate Paris Campbell at the 1109. What you got here?
This one killed me because it's kind of stipulated. I've got to go Hilton out of those just because I know what I'm getting. Hilton's fantastic. He's going to get, if he's healthy, he's getting 1,200 yards. Andrew Luck loves him. He somehow gets in the red zone for being small and skinny. It's stipulated because that's if Adam Thielen, Keenan Allen are gone, who go a couple picks behind him somehow. But he's been so good for so long. I'm going Hilton. I love Paris Campbell. I love the upside, but I think Funchess might be the number 2 receiver there, and I think Campbell needs an injury to really be that guy in the offense.
And then you're hearing all this Deion Kane stuff too. How much I love Kane and all that.
I like Deion Kane too.
Well, that's the other thing too. Is like you're starting to hear all the buzz on him, and I don't know. This is going to be one of those frustrating situations where Hilton's going to get Hilton stuff, and then the rest of the guys, I just kind of throw my hands up and just like. I think go draft Andrew Luck. That's what I say to people.
Yeah,
tight ends will get theirs.
Yeah,
and Campbell's going to be like the same role as Hines they're talking about. I don't want it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be Andrew Luck, T.Y. Hilton, and the rest of the guys are basically best ball players. Because they're going to have those big, humongous games. Paris Campbell will have one.
I know where your head's at tonight, man.
Yeah. Deion Kane will have one, but you won't ever know when it's going to happen. So I think they're great best ball players. All right, normally at this time we go to a commercial break, but I found out today that my sponsor has gone belly up, so we're not going to have a commercial break. We're gonna answer some questions here that I've got on Facebook. We got a bunch of questions here that people were asking me. So the first one I got here is from Jerry Wilkes on Facebook. He's in a keeper league. He's Lee for a 6th round pick or Boyd for a 7th round pick in a half-point PPR league. Joe, we'll go to you first. What do you think of that?
I'm sorry, you cut out a little bit on me for a second. I heard Ridley in a 6th round. That's all I heard after that. Can you give it to me one more time?
Calvin Ridley for a 6th rounder or Tyler Boyd for a 7th rounder. It's a half-point PPR.
Oh, man. I love Calvin Ridley in that offense. I'll probably spend the extra on Calvin Ridley. And it's real close. It's real. If you went the other way, I wouldn't blame him. But I'm just really high on the Falcons this year. I just think they're just set up to roll. They got 12 games indoors this year, and what they did last year with Matt Ryan throwing for almost 5,000 yards 2 of the last 3 years. I think Ridley in year 2 is going to be a beast.
All right, good stuff. What about you, Ryan? What are your thoughts on that? You think you're going with Ridley as well?
Yeah, I second that. I like Ridley. I think he's gonna do well this year. I think he's on the uptick. They love him. I actually heard an interview with their GM recently on Move the Sticks, and he was talking about how he's one of the best route runners he's ever seen in his whole scouting career. They love him there. They're going to get him the ball. He's a big part of that team in the future.
All right, good stuff. And then we got Going4 2's own Mr. Kyle. I can't pronounce his last name, Senra, I believe. He was talking about the Kiki QT and the Fuller matchup there. Ryan, if it wasn't down to ADP, would you take QT straight up over Fuller? Because he says he'd take him over Fuller any day of the week.
Probably not, because Fuller has that uncanny connection with Deshaun Watson where somehow he always finds in the red zone, and it's to the point it's happened so much where you can't ignore it. But it's close. But the ADPs makes a difference for me. Okay,
fair enough. What about you, Joe? Kiki Cutie or Will Fuller straight up?
This is a tricky one. I know QT, and I've had this conversation on Fantasy Pros with Tagliere and Sylvester. We've had this one out. They love QT, and I get it. I understand why they like him, and the knock on Fuller is, well, he gets hurt all the time, but all he does is score touchdowns.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. I like touchdowns. All Chris Carter did was score touchdowns too, and he's in the Hall of Fame. So it's hard for me. I would probably still take Fuller because that touchdown difference is what I'm looking for, and DeAndre Hopkins is so good and demands so much of the target share that I think the upside is the guy you want in that offense who's going to score touchdowns besides DeAndre Hopkins. And I think that guy is still Will Fuller if he's on the field. Now, that's obviously a problem, but I'm willing to take that risk one more time. Just once. That's it. Now I'm out. If he gets hurt again, I'm out. 3 times. That's it. That's all you get with me.
Yeah, I think I'm with you, Joe. I think I'm Will Fuller as well. I think he's just been too damn good when he's been in there. I think that, injuries aside, I think when he's in there, he's excellent. Him and Watson have a connection that you just can't replicate.
Yeah, they have something special there, and that's the thing. But, I mean, QT, like just from the raw skills, I have a hard time arguing that he's not the better talent or the better scouting talent. I understand the love of QT, but I just want the points.
Yep.
I don't care how they come. I don't care if they're ugly. I just want the points, man.
All right, fair enough. All right, so now we're going to get to the theme of the show tonight. 3rd round wide receivers. We're going to talk about, 3rd year wide receivers. Usually it's been like third year is their typical breakout year. I know we had that year a few years ago. It was Mike Evans and Odell Beckham Jr. all broke out in their first year. I think Amari Cooper had a first-year breakout. Last year we had Ridley, but it was more of a couple games that he had really big that made him a breakout. But for the most part, the third year in a receiver's your career is when he typically breaks out. So we're going to go through and do a quick, like a mock draft style of all the third-year wide receivers, and just talk about each one individually and what we think they can do this year for us. So, Joe, since you're the guest, you get to kick it off with this. You get the first pick in the third-year wide receiver draft. Who are you taking here?
Awesome. I love it. I want my boy, Juju.
Of course.
Juju Smith-Schuster. I mean, I know I took the easy way out, but so what? I love this guy. I love everything about him. I love that he gets social media. I love that he's a likable dude. And look, the talent is extraordinary. And I think some people out there are a little concerned, well, what's going to happen now that Antonio Brown's gone? But, the track record of the Steelers letting go of wide receivers and then somebody stepping up into that vacuum and performing is
forever.
Pretty good. I mean, the Plaxico to Santonio to the Antonio Brown. I mean, it just goes on and on
Hines
and on.
Ward's in there.
And yeah, exactly. And I think that this year, too, I mean, even if you go back and look at numbers of Juju when Antonio Brown wasn't playing or not 100% healthy, they were really good. So I'm not concerned at all. I think Juju is going to be outstanding. In fact, that whole grouping after those big four guys, I think the next four, there's all questions. There's questions about Tyreek Hill. There's questions about Odell. There's questions about Antonio Brown. But I have safest of those four guys. I don't know if he's the best of those four guys, but I think he's the safest depending on how you want to draft. So all the Juju, number one.
All right, good stuff. Ryan, you get the number 2 pick. Who you going with? Third-year receivers.
What? God. I was debating hard between Chris Godwin and Kenny Galladay. But I think going with Godwin just because I know how much they're going to throw the ball this year.
Yep.
They were second in the league last year with 620-some attempts. They threw the ball a ton. Bruce Arians has done nothing but talk about him the entire offseason. I know he's going to be second in his team in targets, but he's still going to get a lot. And that offense has no running game. The defense is non-existent. They're going to be chucking the ball all over the field. And Godwin is a talented dude. I think he's going to thrive there.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think Godwin would have been my pick here at number 3 if he would have fell to me. But because you took him at number 2, I'm going to take the aforementioned Kenny Galladay. Baby Megatron, as they call him. I don't know if he's quite that good yet, but I think with Marvin Jones coming back and then Hawkinson there in the middle, I think it kind of takes some pressure off of him. He did struggle a little bit towards the end of last year when he was the only guy in the field, but I think if he can get a little bit of help to sort of pull some coverage away from him, I think he can be an excellent red zone guy. I think Stafford trusts him. I think Galladay's going to have he's in for a big year this year. I have Galladay on my dynasty team, and he's my receiver 3. So I'm hoping he breaks out, but I think in this situation, I think Galladay's set up for success. All right, Joe, back to you. You're at pick number 4. Who you got?
All right, it's between two guys, and I'm just going to go with the talent here. And considering right now that Melvin Gordon might not be playing much this year, that might mean they have to throw the ball a little bit more, and I think that plays really well into Mike Williams. And I just think this guy is a matchup nightmare in the red zone. I think we all know Keenan Allen's ability, but we all know Keenan Allen's not much for scoring touchdowns. But Mike Williams is, and I keep going back to the same thing. Scoring touchdowns matters. It's skill. I know. People are like, well, all he does is that. No, that's great. Do more of it. For me, Mike Williams is just a raw, freakish talent, and I think that last year you saw some of those glimpses of how good he can be. I think this year the confidence will be there as well. Not to mention, if indeed the running back situation does become a timeshare, then it's going to scale back. It's not going to be more running game. It's going to be less running back game because of who they've got. And those guys are not Melvin Gordon. I'm sorry. They're decent, but they're not Melvin Gordon.
Agreed.
And I think that means more Mike Williams and more Keenan Allen, and that's a good thing for Mike Williams.
Yes, definitely. I think Williams becomes a de facto number 1 option in the red zone for sure without Melvin Gordon there.
100%, as he should be. The guy, I mean, you try guarding him.
Yeah. All right, Ryan, you're up. What you got?
Real quick, before my picks in, do you guys agree with all the guys who've been picked so far? Maybe not the order, but those are the guys who should have been picked so far.
Yeah, agreed 100%. The way it should be. Why?
I do.
Yeah.
So somebody you want to pick differently?
Oh, no, I'm going to pick Cooper Kupp here.
That was the next guy. To me, it was between Williams and Kupp.
Whose ADP is above Chris Godwin's, who went a couple picks before. Just wanted to throw that part out.
Just wanted to point it out.
Everything we said, Kupp's floor is great, and there's a kind of a drop-off now. But, yeah, I think Kupp here, he's still got, I said, he has a great floor. He's in a great offense. But it's all about the value for it.
All right. This is where I think it gets really interesting because I can go a couple ways here. I think that all the top guys.
By interesting, you mean sad,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
Okay,
this is where it drops off considerably because we've got Corey Davis on the board, who I loved coming into when he came into it, and I just think his offense is bad. I think the fact that they added A.J. Brown hurts him a little bit. We've also got D.D. Westbrook, who I also like to think that he can break out at some point this year. Tough pick between those two guys. And then there's also David Moore and Trent Taylor that I'm kind of sort of thinking about, and also Curtis Samuel. I think the one I'm going to go with, though, is the one that has the most upside, and that'll be D.D. Westbrook. I think that in that offense with Nick Foles, I think Nick Foles loves to throw the ball deep. We saw it in Philly. I think Westbrook is the best receiver there. I think he's head and shoulders better than some of the other guys there, and I think that his deep playability is what's going to sort of separate him from the rest of the guys. And with Nick Foles throwing the ball, upgrade over Bortles, it's not going to be a great offense, but, I think Westbrook is the one that's going to sort of be the top guy there. So my pick is going to be D.D. Westbrook.
Jeff, I don't even know you anymore. I don't, man. I mean, week 13
I'm thrilled.
last year?
I'm so happy this just happened because now Corey Davis just fell in my lap, and he's my third guy. So I got Juju, Mike Williams, and Corey Davis. I'll go to war with that for the next 3-5 years.
Nice.
Let's do it. But you know what? It's funny. You mentioned the getting Brown on that offense. I actually think it helps him. And he got all the targets, but the problem was there was him and 4 other guys around him for the football at all times.
Yeah.
They had no middle of the field presence because Delaney Walker was hurt. So there was nothing else to vary them. Then finally, towards the end of the year, they figured out, hey, if we give Derrick Henry the ball more, we'll be better. And oh my God, look at that, they were. Now that they've got a couple other pieces, and I'll tell you what, that little addition of Humphreys is huge too, because Humphreys out of the slot, I think, is that middle of the field presence.
Good call.
That I think that they've been lacking, and ever since Delaney Walker really been banged up. So now all of a sudden there's a little bit more to defend, and I think that plays a lot more into helping Corey Davis. Look, unfortunately, he's still stuck with a crap quarterback and a crap backup quarterback, but one would hope eventually one of those guys can find him at least on one-on-one coverage.
Yeah, he got plenty of targets last year. He just couldn't do much with it.
Oh, yeah. So, like I said, when you're fighting 3 other guys for the ball, it's hard.
Tough. Yeah, exactly. It is tough. All right, Ryan, what you got?
I think Curtis Samuel here. I love the upside for Samuel. He's another guy. Carolina finds ways to give him the ball. They throw to him deep. They hit him on bubble screens. They run reverses. He's explosive. He's another one of those just versatile guys they seem to like in Carolina. And we talked about Cam earlier and his running. They have a lot of weapons there that they can dump the ball off and protect Cam with. And I think Curtis Samuel's one of the guys who they're going to lean on with that. He had 39 receptions last year, and he's a big play threat. I like Curtis Samuel there. He's a guy I've not bought a lot of, especially at his value. So I'm going to roll with him. All
right. Yeah, I almost took it with my pick as well. I think I like Curtis Samuel as well with the discount that you get over him over DJ Moore. I think they're very similar receivers, and you can get a good discount on him. So I almost took him. With my next pick, I think I'm going to surprise a little bit, and I'm going a little bit homer here. I'm going to go with my boy Trent Taylor, and I think that everyone kind of came in, and I know Ryan, you did as well. You thought Deebo Samuel would be the slot receiver there. They put Goodwin on the outside and have Pettis. But they've actually put Deebo on the outside, and it is Trent Taylor's job in the slot to lose. And we've seen what Trent Taylor can do in his first year, his rookie year. He had a pretty good season with especially when Garoppolo got there. And I think that connection is there. The slot guy is going to get tons of targets. Garoppolo is a timing-based quarterback, and I think Trent Taylor is the guy that's going to be where he's supposed to be at all times. He's not going to try to take it an extra yard down the field. I think he's going to be where he's supposed to be, and I think Garoppolo finds him. I think he leads the league, leads the team in targets for sure. And I think his rookie year, he was like top 10 in third down reception. So he'll be that go-to guy in third down as well for Garoppolo. So I'm going Trent Taylor here. And that as that pick 109. So Joe, we're up with you at pick 110. What you got?
This is tough, boy. Now we're at the bottom here. I'll tell you what. It's between David Moore and Zay Jones. And I'm going to go with Zay Jones because he seems like he's fun to party with. Seems like you and Zay hang out. You just never know where the night's going to go. I mean, who knows? We're kicking in windows. We're riding down elevator shafts. Anything could happen. And look, Josh Allen. Look, Josh Allen, I think, did enough at the end of last year to make me interested. I liked him in college, too. I thought he was a fun, raw talent that was better when he was making plays and running than he was in the pocket, obviously. And he basically just kind of carried over and kept doing him last year. And all of a sudden, fantasy-wise, that's what you wanted. Now, how's that going to translate in the NFL? I don't know. We'll see how long he can last doing what he's doing until he makes a little bit more of a little development in the passing game. There's a long way to go still with that. But at the same time, I think Zay Jones is kind of in a spot now where he's really got to perform. Because if he doesn't now, there's other guys in that offense now, like John Brown, who I think is very capable, and even guys like Cole Beasley, that will just, he'll be a distant memory, Zay Jones. So if he wants to get paid, it's time to show up and play. So I'm gonna put my money on Zay Jones needing money.
All right, good stuff. I took Zay Jones in the Scott Fish Bowl, so I'm hoping you're right because I picked him.
I hope I'm right for you too.
Yeah. All right, Ryan, you got the 111. You got very slim pickings left. Who you got?
I know. I was upset with Zay Jones. Also, Zay Jones, number 2 in target percentage in the red zone in the NFL last year, and number 3 inside the 10.
Nice. That's a big stat right there.
But, I mean, he hasn't got a lot of targets because that offense isn't that great. But, yeah, it's still, that's who his go-to guy was. I'm going Josh Reynolds. I like the upside. I know he's buried on the depth chart, but all these guys are not people I want to start. So I'm going to go with the person I think is the most talented receiver here.
You got your Cooper Kupp handcuff.
Yeah.
Cooper Kupp handcuff. Yeah. Cooper Kupp handcuff when for taking him earlier. But I think he's a talented guy, and when it comes to this point, I'm going for guys with really good offenses. And he's one of the best in the league, so I'm going with Josh Reynolds.
All right, and that brings me to the pick 112 to close us out, and it pretty much has to be David Moore. He's the only one here that actually matters right now in fantasy, because my options are basically John Ross, Carlos Henderson, and that's pretty much it. So David Moore, at least he's a starter in that offense. I know it's a run-based offense, and there's 2 guys ahead of him that'll be in the pecking order of getting targets. But David Moore last year was kind of a red zone guy. I think he caught like 6 touchdowns last year. He didn't have any receptions, but he definitely was in the red zone a lot. So David Moore is my guy to finish us off there for the final pick in our 3rd-year receiver mock draft. So good stuff, guys. I think that went how I expected it to be, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like getting David Moore there too. I mean, it's very Pete Carroll to buy a new toy and break it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, whether it's CJ Procise, he broke that. He broke Rashad Penny last year. He's probably going to break DK Metcalf this year. And then next thing you know, it's going to be David Moore catching touchdowns.
Yep. All right. So now we'll get to the segment at the end of our podcast that we do every week. Let me go ahead and hit if I can find it here. I lost it. There we go.
Get ready for GoingFor2.com's Forgotten Fantasy Player of the Week.
All right, Joe, Forgotten Fantasy Player of the Week. This is a guy from the past that maybe, won you a championship. Maybe he was a one-hit wonder. Maybe you just have a good story about him. Who's your Forgotten Fantasy Player this week?
Well, it's way back in 2010. It was a wide receiver I picked up off the waiver wire. He was a boy from New York Giants named Hakeem Nicks.
Nice.
And he had 1,000 yards that year. It was wonderful. And he had 11 touchdowns. It was an absolutely brilliant season. And I kept him the next year because it was so good. And the next year was okay. It wasn't quite as good, but he still was, yardage totals were good, a little less touchdowns. That's understandable. He had, I think, only 6 or 7 the next year. That's fine. Still pretty good for waiver wire. And then he just disappeared. He just where'd he go? I don't know. I even changed my team name the next year to Where's Hakeem from Coming to America
Nice.
Because I couldn't find him anywhere on my roster anymore showing up and getting points. So there you go.
Awesome. I love it because actually I did forget about him. Man, that's a good one. I love that one because I think I actually owned him as well, and I completely forgot about him. You think about guys like Victor Cruz and
2 great years, and then
gone.
I think he got hurt. I think it was a knee, if memory serves, or something happened, and he was just never the same after that, unfortunately. So what are you gonna do?
All right, good stuff, man. I love that one. All right, Joe, let's go to you real quick. Give us your Twitter handle, where we can follow you at, where we can find you at in all the social media world.
Well, it's easier to where you can't find me nowadays. That's for damn sure. But no, you can find me on the Twitter machine at Joe Pisapia 17, and of course, you can check out the Fantasy Football Black Book 2019 with myself, Jake Seeley, Nate Hamilton, Matt Franciscovich, Gary Davenport, Debro wrote for it, Chris Meany. It's DFS. It's season long. It's relative position value. It's a season-long companion. It's not a draft guide. It's a whole concept to take you through the whole year. So go get it on Amazon today. I guarantee you it's worth it. And it's up to date, too. And you can also check me out on the Fantasy Black Book podcast on the Fantrax Podcast Network, everywhere you can listen to podcasts. I also host the MLB and NFL DFS shows at Line Star. I write for TQE. I write for Fantrax HQ. What else do I do?
When
I like
do you
to
find
cook.
time?
I like to bake. I do a lot of things like that, too. I got 2 kids. I got a lot going on. I need a nap. I'm exhausted.
Yeah, jeez. Good stuff. All right, Ryan, you got to follow that up. Where can we find you at?
Yeah, Ryan, where are you? What did you do today, Ryan?
I sold insurance and talked to you guys on and maybe on Twitter a little bit. You can find Ryan Surplus and Fantasy FB Connect.
All right, good stuff.
I don't know how to follow that, man.
Yeah, you can't follow that one. All right, guys. I'm Jeff. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter at JeffLambert77. I'm all over Facebook as well. Just Google my name. You'll find all my Facebook groups that I'm in. That's a wrap, guys. Have a good night.